How do you change the text in Sonic 1? This is a question I get asked fairly often, despite the fact that it's actually pretty simple to do, especially now that I've made a tool that makes this whole process even easier. But it's still a question I get asked a lot, so I thought I would make a proper video tutorial telling you how to do so. So let's get started. There are 5 different types of text we will look at today. The zone title cards, the end of level title cards, the credits text, the Sonic Team Presents text, and the level select text. Let's get started with the zone title cards, because those are probably the ones that you want to edit the most. In your disassembly, open the file Sonic.exe and then press Ctrl F and search for map_card:. And there you have it. These are the zone title card mappings. Every single line that you see here represents one letter. So this is GREENHILL. But we don't need to manually edit these numbers because there's a much simpler way to edit this stuff without doing any of that scary stuff. And that is with a tool that I wrote called the Sonic Text Code Generator Mark II. Why Mark II? Because a couple years ago I made a similar tool called the Sonic 1 Text Code Generator, which is really terrible and I advise you not to do it. So you open this tool, which obviously will be linked in the description down below, and then from here you enter your new zone name, which I will just call test zone for now. You don't actually write the zone because the zone is actually its own element. So if you wanted to replace the zone, you would do that in this place. I'm gonna just copy this. And now, if we compare these two texts, you will see that they look completely different. Right here you have this sprite piece, sprite header stuff, and here you just have DCB with completely different numbers. But what you have to understand is this right here is called a map macro. This is something introduced by the community that is supposed to make porting mappings between one game, like with Sonic 2, to Sonic 1 easier by having the format itself be unified, even though the underlying format is different. So what that means in simple terms, what you see right here will assemble to this DCB stuff when you click on build.bat. So let me just undo this, and now from sprite header all the way to the respective even, we overwrite it with the text that we've just generated. And that's all you need to do. So we're gonna save that. And now let's build our ROM and see how it looks in the game. Alright, and now there you have it, test zone. Obviously, the name itself isn't really interesting, but that's for you to decide. You can change the name however you want. There's just one more thing that I want to point out, and that is, if you look at the way this is arranged, something feels weird. Because this test is somewhere in the middle, and the zone stuff right here is a little bit too far to the right. And that is something that needs to be fixed by some other part of the generator. So, if we go back to it, you will see there's this second part down here called ConData. Configuration doesn't matter. We take this ConData right here, and now we go to the folder _inc_opsh, and then we open the file 34 title cards. We go all the way to the bottom, and right here you will see the ConData. Since we are editing Green Hill Zone, we will take the first line, we will overwrite it with our new ConData, and build the ROM again. Ah yeah, that looks much better. Perfectly aligned with the oval and everything. Nice, 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 nice. Alright, so that's it for zone title cards. Next we will take a look at end of level title cards. What are those? Those are the title cards at the end of a level. You know, the one that says Sonic has passed. How unfortunate. Those are actually directly below the Sonic.asm stuff with the title cards, which in this case was map_card. So if we scroll down a bit below this, you will see map gut for gut through act. And there you have it. Sonic has passed, score and so on. And a little bit down below you will actually see map SSR, which is for the special stage result screen, Chaos Emerald score and so on. Let's assume that we have added a new character to the game and we don't want to show Sonic, but rather Tails has passed. So we go back to the zone title card editor because it uses the exact same format. And let's just write Tails has, since past is in a different line. Copy that. we go here, we override this from the sprite header all the way to the end, and we save and build. Alright, I'm just gonna avoid the ring, and there you have it. Tails has passed. So in this case, you don't actually need to do anything with the ConData stuff, because the ConData is only something that you need to use when you edit the zone title cards, like over here. But just in case you want to for some reason anyway, you will do so in the file 3a got through card, right at the bottom where it says got config. But again, you don't need to change this stuff if you don't have to, because this is not the same format as is generated over here with the ConData anyway. Just one final word about title cards. There is something that you need to know, which is that these letters right here, J, Q, V, W, and X, are not part of the title card font, which means you cannot use them. If you try to generate this stuff, you will actually get a warning right here that this is trying to generate text that doesn't exist. There's one exception with the W, which I will have crudely implemented anyway by taking an M and rotating it 180 degrees. It kind of works, but it's really ugly. So honestly, try to pick names that don't use any of these 5 letters. That was it for title cards. Now let's take a look at credits text. So credits are a lot simpler to modify than title cards because you don't need to worry about this ConData stuff or whatever. Credits are really, really simple. So when it comes to credits, what we want to do is we're going to take our text, which I will just go with the low-hanging fruit of... Don't mention it. Once again, just like the title cards, there's something that you need to know. A couple letters are not actually part of the font. In this case, it's Q, V, W, and Z. But hang on, you might say, I've just put a W over here. In this case, it's a lot cleaner than when it was with the title cards, because rotating the M by 180 degrees actually works pretty well for the credits text. So in this case, we could get away with it. I'm once again going to copy this to clipboard. And now you want to go to _maps and open the file credits.asm. And here you have all the mappings for the credits. Sonic Team Staff, Game Plan, Carol Yes, Program U2. Oh yeah, little fun fact, there's actually one more letter. It is 2. Just 2. You cannot use 1, you cannot use 3 or any other number, you can only use 2. Why? Because for some reason Yuji Naka had his acronym be U2 in the game. So there's a 2 in the game, in case you needed that. Anyway, this is all the stuff for the credits, and I don't actually want to test the credits right now because I don't want to play through the final boss and everything. But there's a shortcut, because another text that we can edit is actually part of this exact file, which is the Sonic Team present screen right before the title screen. And it uses the exact same format as the credits. So what does it mean in practice? When we scroll to the bottom of this credits.asm file, we can simply take it from the sprite header all the way to the sprite end, paste this over, and that's it. And there you have it. The text works just as expected. So if you don't want to have it look like this, if you feel like that's a little bit too close to each other, all you need to do is keep an empty line between each of these lines. The exact format is pretty loose and you can do a lot of stuff with it. So that's it for credits text, but there's one more text that we need to take a look at, and of course that is the level select text. And this is gonna be really easy because this stuff is already part of the source code. So if we go back to Sonic.asm and we search for level menu text, you will see this, the level select text. And even though at first it might seem a bit scary, this right here is just the definition to make this text, which you can write in plain text, be converted to the respective format that the game needs once it's actually assembled. The other thing is, you might actually know this already, but the original version of Sonic 1 had the level select text in the incorrect order. So it was Green Hill Zone, Labyrinth Zone, Marble Zone, and so on. It was completely different. They actually used the internal IDs to make the level selects, rather than the order that they actually appear in the game. So in later revisions of Sonic 1, they fixed that with the correct order. And for the sake of simplicity, I recommend you remove this too. So we remove everything from revision 0. And now we have the perfect way to make this level select as clean as possible. So now, to edit it, it's pretty self-explanatory. We simply overwrite everything with something else. But the important thing is these lines all need to be the same length, 24 characters. So we need to make sure that each line continues to have exactly 24 characters, or else the whole level select will look weird. You can see if we have the correct length if every single one of these closing quotation marks is on the same vertical line. We're gonna save that, we're gonna build our ROM. And now in 1 second when we open the level select, there you have it. You can of course edit every single line how you want, you don't need to have the state, you can be really creative with this stuff. And yeah, I think that's everything there is to say about the most common text. There's just one final type of text that I want to talk about, and that is the text at the top over here. So this is the easiest part to edit out of all of this, because if we go to the very beginning of the file, we scroll down here to this list of vectors, you will see this stuff. This is where the magic happens to make the text at the top show up. So once again, all we need to do is go over here, and I'm actually gonna enable insert mode in my editor so I can edit this more easily, and then I can just override it as I like to. And now, one more thing. We have the domestic name, which is the one showed in Japanese consoles, and you have the international name showed overseas. Traditionally, it doesn't really matter to make a differentiation between them, and there are some emulators that don't actually care about that differentiation. So what I suggest is you simply duplicate this line, remove this one, and make sure both names are identical. Once again, build our ROM. And finally, you can see the text right here. So, I really think that's everything I can tell you about text right now. The only other types of text are of course here on the title screen, but those are actually a completely different story. They have nothing to do with the text type we just edited. And that will definitely require a different video for another time. Again, like the ROM title says, thank you for watching, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you around another time for another tutorial. Bye bye! Ambulance. And this is the part that trips people up the most, which I guess makes sense, but what you have to understand is, this sprite... Meine Fresse, ich will doch noch aufnehmen! Ah!